Forgotten true stories of ghosts. What if I told you some of the most chilling ghost stories you've ever heard have been hiding in plain sight, buried in history, waiting to haunt anyone who dares to remember them? When it comes to ghost stories, we all have our favorites: tales told around campfires, whispered in darkened rooms, or adapted for horror movies. But what about the stories that didn't make it to the spotlight, the ones that slipped through the cracks of history, overshadowed by time? Today, we're digging up the forgotten, the overlooked, and the spine-tingling tales of spirits that still haunt the edges of human memory. These aren't just tales to entertain you. They're rooted in real events, witnessed by real people. As we dive into three of the most compelling forgotten ghost stories, the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall, Resurrection Mary, and the Law Laurie Mansion, you'll see that sometimes the truth is scarier than fiction. So, buckle up and prepare yourself for a journey into the haunted past. The Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Our first story takes us to Norfolk, England, to a grand yet eerie estate, Raynham Hall. For centuries, the Brown Lady, named for her flowing brown brocade gown, has haunted the halls of this estate, her hollow eyes and chilling presence striking fear into anyone who crosses her path. But who was she? And why does her spirit linger? The Brown Lady is believed to be the restless spirit of Dorothy Walpole, a woman who lived a life of luxury, until she didn't. Dorothy's husband, Charles Townshend, discovered her infidelity and, according to legend, locked her in her rooms at Raynham Hall, forbidding her from seeing her children. She died years later, officially of smallpox, though some believe it was heartbreak or even murder. The most famous sighting of the Brown Lady came in 1936, when photographers from Country Life magazine visited Raynham Hall. As they snapped photos of the grand staircase, they captured something, or someone, they hadn't expected: a translucent figure descending the steps, her gown shimmering faintly in the light. The photo became one of the most iconic examples of spirit photography. But here's the twist. What if Dorothy's ghost isn't seeking vengeance? What if she's searching for her children, lost to her in life, and perhaps even in death? Witnesses often report feeling a profound sadness in her presence, as if she's trapped in an endless loop of mourning. And maybe, just maybe, the Brown Lady isn't the one haunting Raynham Hall. Maybe the house itself is haunting her. Resurrection Mary. Now let's travel across the Atlantic to Chicago, where one of the most famous vanishing hitchhiker legends continues to haunt the streets near Resurrection Cemetery. Her name is Resurrection Mary, and her story begins in the 1930s at the O. Henry Ballroom, where she danced the night away. And into folklore. Mary was a young woman, vibrant and full of life, until one fateful night. After an argument with her boyfriend, she stormed out of the ballroom and decided to walk home along Archer Avenue. But she never made it. A hit-and-run driver struck her down, leaving her lifeless body by the roadside. She was buried in Resurrection Cemetery in the same white dancing dress she'd worn that night. Decades later, drivers began reporting strange encounters. A young woman in a white dress would flag them down, asking for a ride. She was quiet but polite, giving directions to her destination, always Resurrection Cemetery, and just as they neared the gates, she'd vanish, leaving behind only the chill of the supernatural. But here's where it gets unsettling. Some say Mary's spirit isn't seeking a ride. She's trying to escape. Reports of handprints burned into the cemetery's iron gates suggest she's been trying to leave for decades, only to be pulled back by forces beyond our understanding. Perhaps Mary's story isn't just about a tragic accident. Maybe it's about a restless soul caught in a loop, trying desperately to find peace. The Law Laurie Mansion. Our final story brings us to New Orleans, where the infamous La Laurie Mansion stands as a grim reminder of humanity's darkest depths. In the early 1800s, this opulent home belonged to Madame Delphine La Laurie, a wealthy socialite with a reputation for hosting lavish parties and hiding horrific secrets. In 1834, a fire broke out at the mansion, and what rescuers discovered inside shocked even the most hardened individuals. Hidden in a locked room was a makeshift torture chamber where enslaved people had been subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Madame Lalaurie fled to France before she could face justice, leaving behind a legacy of horror. Today, the mansion is considered one of the most haunted places in the world. Visitors report hearing screams echoing through the halls and seeing shadowy figures flit past windows. But perhaps the most chilling accounts are of Madame Lalaurie herself. Witnesses claim to see a woman in elegant 19th century clothing, her expression cold and unfeeling, standing at the top of the grand staircase. Is she reliving her crimes? Or is she facing an eternity of torment for the pain she caused? Here's a thought. Maybe the Lalaurie mansion isn't haunted by spirits of the enslaved, but by the evil Madame Lalaurie unleashed. The house seems alive, feeding off the darkness that once filled its walls, drawing in anyone curious enough to enter. From the sorrowful Brown Lady of Raynham Hall to the restless Resurrection Mary and the sinister Lalaurie Mansion, these forgotten ghost stories remind us that history is never truly behind us. The echoes of the past linger, waiting for those brave or foolish enough to listen. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A shadow in the corner of your eye? A whisper in an empty room? Share your story in the comments below. And if you're ready to uncover even more haunted tales, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The ghosts of the past are never far away, and there's always another story waiting to be told. Stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, some things are better left forgotten.